With the recent news reports across the state and nation about cases of farm animal abuse and neglect, there's a growing awareness of animal welfare from the public. So, there's a need for industry experts to become spokespeople for these types of cases. If you live in Mississippi, chances are you've seen cows that have escaped the pasture and are wandering down the public road. If the farmer's around, he can pretty easily round them up. But what if he's not? Law enforcement is usually called, and they need to know how to handle farm animals safely and correctly. That's the purpose behind a series of workshops held across the state, to teach law enforcement and others what to do and not to do around farm animals. The workshops also covered how to recognize animal abuse by showing them the difference between an abused animal, a neglected animal, and the normal stages of an aging animal.
I think it's a great way to give people an idea, especially in law enforcement, what is acceptable and non-acceptable practices in animal agriculture. And of course, my species being equine, the horse really poses a different aspect of agricultural management compared to some other livestock species, based on surely that the animal is a different production animal than our other normal livestock species.
Farm animal welfare is important to everyone, whether you're a cattleman, a horse enthusiast, or a consumer. This large group of agricultural organizations provided this training to law enforcement because many times they are the first to get notified of potential farm animal abuse or neglect.
One thing that we're talking to the law enforcement about today is body condition scoring in cattle. And we know that a lot of times when people drive down the road and they see a cow that may be a little thinner than what a consumer may think she should be, we want them to kind of know the story behind that cow. So in some cases, a cow may be lactating and feeding her first calf, and she may be in a poorer body condition score than a cow who, let's say, hasn't calved in a year or so. So we want to kind of point out some of those differences, talk about the differences between dairy cattle and beef cattle, and talk about the stages of production that a cow might be in that might affect her body condition score.
Rutherford says that farmers want healthy, content animals.
I've never met a single farmer that doesn't believe in animal welfare. And I think when we see cases of animal abuse or neglect, in 99.99% of those cases, we see that it's just a lack of knowledge and understanding. Most farmers will use best management practices in most every aspect of their production, from supplemental feeding to rotational grazing. It's different for each system and different scenario, but most farmers will employ best management practices on their operations.
There are a lot of factors to keep in mind about whether a situation is neglect, abuse, or normal living conditions.
A body condition score is an effective tool, but not a hard and fast rule of different types of horses, because we have horses that are, even in performance, could be high level or a high level of exercise, low level, moderate. We have late gestating brood mares that need a different nutrition level. We have different ages of horses that could affect what their body condition score acceptability is and non-acceptability. So that body condition score system is a good rule of thumb, but definitely some of the management practices in consideration of age, use, breed even, are things that definitely affect whether or not we could classify that as acceptable or not.
Jackie Knight has been the sheriff of Newton County for 20 years.
It was very beneficial as far as law enforcement, because we get a lot of calls now on horses being abused, basically more than cows. We get a lot of animal calls about horses, about being abused, not being fed, not being taken care of. This gave us something to go on as to, they showed us the condition of horse, how to tell the condition of a horse. And this was very helpful on that. Now then we can go out and judge and say, well, it was neglected or it's being abused. I never known until today, you know, there was a difference. But there is a difference between neglect and abuse, so it was very beneficial on that.
Well, farm animal welfare is important to everyone. And like I said earlier, whether you're a farmer, it's important for your bottom line and your profitability. But it's also important for our consumers to know that the cattle and livestock on Mississippi farms and ranches are well cared for and have the utmost farm animal welfare.